All eyes on Governor Stitt as a man sits on death row. We have team coverage on the Julius Jones case. The jury begins deliberations in the trial of Kyle Rittenhouse. And breaking news as the House votes to censure a member of Congress. This is OU Nightly.
Yeah, it's pretty rough, to be honest with you. That's not something that's easy to talk about. Been trying to get the facts stated and the truth to be told for a while, but it's tough to think about. Tried and tried. It's a shame that it's gotten this far. We're 24 hours away, so it's tough.
Tonight, former OU superstar Baker Mayfield sums it up for so many, those in Oklahoma and beyond.
Hello, thanks for joining us for OU Nightly. I'm Mecca Thompson.
And I'm Katie Arata. We begin tonight with the latest on Julius Jones, a man who sits on death row tonight and who is set to be executed tomorrow.
Jones is a former OU student who attended college on an academic scholarship. In the summer of 1999, he was arrested for the murder of Edmond businessman Paul Howell. Jones was convicted and sentenced to death, but his supporters say he is innocent and was framed for a crime that he did not commit. They have been gathering for days now at the Oklahoma State Capitol.
This was the scene very early this morning. Justice for Julius supporters gathered outside Governor Kevin Stitt's office, praying and singing and waiting for a decision from the governor. The Oklahoma Pardon and Parole Board recommended clemency for Jones on November 1st. The governor's office has been silent since. Reaction to the governor's silence is coming in from around the world. But this morning it got quite local, with hundreds of high school students in Oklahoma City walking out of classes to draw attention to the Jones case.
The students are from 6 different high schools. In this video from our partners at News 9, you can see a large group at John Marshall High School. These students left class and walked around the track for several hours, holding signs that said "Justice for Julius." Students from other high schools headed to the state capitol, and that's where we find OU Nightly's Libbey Dean. Libbey talked to some students today.
I think for our school to do this and for us to come and make it here, it was a lot of awareness and a lot of bringing a lot of awareness to the fact that this isn't humanly and that this isn't right.
And there was no reason to just be in school when you know that you can do something. You have a voice, you have a purpose.
To be able to see that much empathy and that much awareness from people in high school, to where I know when I was in high school, I was, vaguely aware, but I wasn't doing anything like this. So to even see that type of change, I think is where you can kind of find the silver lining or some hope to pull from.
Here and today, in 2021, in the state of Oklahoma. The state of Oklahoma is about to execute, to lynch an innocent black man. We're going to lose another brother, former OU student, a black man, to the system and to this state.
Supporters are still anxiously waiting to hear if Stitt will accept the recommendation from the Pardon and Parole Board. Thanks for the update, Libbey. We know that group of supporters will leave the Capitol and head over to the governor's mansion in a few moments. Barricades have been put around the mansion in the expectation of rallies. OU Nightly's Shannon Ehrhardt continues our team coverage. Shannon?
These barricades just behind me went up outside the governor's mansion last night. It's a sign that police are expecting rallies around the area. Now, meantime, reactions to social media across the world are calling on Governor Stitt to stop this execution. Clemency to Mr. Julius Jones, and noting member states of the European Union have fully abolished the death penalty to former OU superstars.
Hopefully God can intervene and handle it correctly and, do the things he needs to do.
And celebrities like Kim Kardashian West and Kerry Washington, the message is clear. They want Governor Stitt to act. And in the end, it's a late-night star that sums it all up.
Board's recommendation still needs to be formally accepted by Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt, which means one man the governor, now has the ability to save the life of someone who many believe never received a fair trial. Now, no matter what you feel,
Members of the Choctaw Tribe and the Justice for Julius Jones group will be marching up from the Capitol to the History Center, which is right across from the governor's mansion at 5 p.m. Now, the governor does not live in the mansion. However, people are still trying to get a hold of him, as we have heard no response. Reporting live from OKC, Shannon Ehrhardt, OU Nightly.
The governor is not the only one who is staying silent right now. Our Washington, D.C. correspondent Zaria Oates joins us with Oklahoma's congressional delegation is saying.
I've reached out to Oklahoma's 5 representatives here in D.C., as well as Senator Inhofe and Senator Langford, and have received no comments from anyone. Julius Jones is set to be executed in less than 24 hours with no response from any of Oklahoma's politicians here in D.C. Zaria Oates, OU Nightly.
Justice for Julius supporters and the Choctaw Nation will hold a vigil tonight for Julius Jones at the Oklahoma State Capitol. The Choctaw Nation says it is against the execution of Jones and wants to stop it from taking place on its tribal land. The event starts at 5 today outside the state capitol, and at 6 they will head to the History Center where Justice for Julius supporters will speak. Members of the Choctaw Nation are also expected with drums and powwow chairs. Right now, Jones's execution is set for 4 p.m. tomorrow unless the governor intervenes. We will keep an eye on things at the Capitol and bring you any new information later in this newscast.
Another developing story, the U.S. House just voted to censure a Republican representative after he shared a violent video. Summer Miller has that story and the rest of today's headlines from around the world.
Today, the U.S. House voted to censure GOP Republican Representative Paul Gosar. The decisions to remove him from his 2 committee assignments comes after Gosar posted a photoshopped anime video on his Twitter and Instagram accounts showing violent actions toward Democratic Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. A censure resolution is the most severe form of punishment in the House. This vote marked the first time the House voted to censure a sitting member in more than a decade. And the trial of Kyle Rittenhouse, defense lawyers filed a second. Back to you guys at the desk.
On to weather with Catherine Liberta.
Thanks, guys. We saw a drastic change in temperatures over the last 24 hours because of this cold front that came through. This was taken by Peyton Gallion. We can see that this is when that cold front came through this morning, and we are seeing a drastic change in temperature over the last 24 hours here in Norman. We are sitting 24 degrees lower than we were this time yesterday, but this cold front is also bringing some very strong winds. We are seeing winds between 20 to 30 mile-an-hour gusts over in most of the state, but the southeastern part of the state isn't seeing as strong of winds because that cold front hasn't moved through just yet. But those winds should be changing over the next couple of days, and so we're going to start to see some warmer temperatures into this weekend. So you're going to want to stick around because Colton Williams has more on all of that coming up in the newscast.
There are more than 700 new cases of COVID-19 today. This increase brings the active caseload to a little over 8,000. The CDC says nearly 12,000 people have died from the virus in Oklahoma, and experts say about 50% of Oklahomans are fully vaccinated against COVID-19.
A local 9-year-old is using his love of gardening for good.
Find out how he is helping those in need when we return.
A Norman 4th grader's unique hobby isn't just benefiting him.
OU Nightly's Grace Burget tells us how this young Normanite is actually helping his community.
Almost 10, you could say 9 and 5/6.
This is Sam Burge, a 9-year-old Norman resident. Like many 9-year-old boys, he loves hanging out with his friends and playing basketball. But Sam also has another hobby, gardening.
I really love it when I get the chance to garden with my dad because, well, he's my dad, and I love doing a lot of things with my dad, but gardening is one of those things that stands out.
Sam has been gardening almost his entire life, but a few years ago he came up with a new way to use his hobby to help those in need.
We've been gardening for years, but when I actually started using that to my advantage for Sam's Herbs was actually 2 years ago.
Greg came up with the idea of using the garden because we have a surplus of herbs and vegetables and fruit to kind of sell around the neighborhood.
Sam chose to give his donations to Norman Food and Shelter after watching a commercial that just didn't sit right with him.
He saw a commercial on TV about homeless youth, and it really bothered him.
And it just inspired me. Just felt bad for those people who just didn't have enough money for a home.
Sam made over $300 selling herbs and veggies this summer and donated all of it to Food and Shelter. Sam's parents named the garden Lemonade Garden to remind Sam to always turn his lemons into lemonade. Grace Burget, OU Nightly.
Sam says he is looking forward to be able to garden with his dad again next summer.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Colton Williams. We're taking a live look now at our skyline cam down towards the Oklahoma City downtown area. Check out the Devon Tower, the hazy sunset here. The sunset is setting up to be a pretty beautiful one. It feels good out there right now. 55, partly cloudy skies. Winds are out of the north now. Cold front passed through earlier today. We hit our high temperature at 8:30 this morning. And across the metro now, we're still feeling it. Again, winds ripping out of the north. How about 57 in Stillwater and in Guthrie, 55. In Oklahoma City, 56 in Chickasha and Fort Cobb. Across the state, much of the same, 63 in Ardmore, 60 in McAllister. Idabel yet to see that cold front, the same one we saw this morning. They're sitting in the middle 70s. The rest of us, lower to middle 50s. Guyman, get ready to hit the 40s as you head into this evening. Across the day today, wind has been ripping. 33 max wind gusts today recorded here in Norman, 44 in Lawton, 45 out in Elk City. Western Oklahoma, a bit higher wind gusts out there today. And all this, looking up top now, cloud cover across the central eastern part of the United States. The polar jet now has dipped here right close to Oklahoma. That's what brought some of the cooler air today. You see the subtropical jet that's staying far and away from us, and that's what's going to continue as we head throughout the next several days. So cooler air going to build in here throughout the end of this week. This weekend we get a nice little warm up coming in. Nice weekend, great for the football game. As we head into later next week, going to continue to have some more warm temperatures before another cold front slides through. Looking at now a cooler Thanksgiving, even a potential for some precip coming along the Thanksgiving holiday, and as you continue out, more blue builds in, kind of gets cooler. But back to this evening, 5 o'clock tonight, 55 winds out of the north. They'll calm just a bit. We'll hit the upper 40s by 9 p.m. Still a good evening, though, all things considered with the cold front. We'll dip close to freezing tonight, 36 in Oklahoma City and in Norman. Folks in the Panhandle, the west and the northwest, they will hit freezing tonight, and then highs tomorrow sitting in the middle to upper 50s. And as the Sooners take on the Cyclones this weekend, it's going to be a great forecast for the game, talking about upper 50s, lower 60s by halftime. And then as we head into next week, again, the beautiful temperatures continue. Ladies, back to you.
Thanks, Colton.
The football team took a tough loss to Baylor this past weekend. So how bad did it hurt their rankings?
Pretty bad, if you ask me. They may have just dropped out of the top 10, but the women's basketball team hasn't lost all season, and they played again last night. I'll tell you if they stayed undefeated or if they suffered their first loss next. Welcome back to OU Nightly. I'm Saul Meyer. Let's talk about those rankings. Last night, the College Football Playoff Committee released their third top 25 rankings of the season. The top 4 stayed the same, with Georgia, Alabama, Oregon, and Ohio State leading the pack. OU took the biggest fall of the week, dropping down from 8 to the 13th spot after losing to the now 11th ranked team, Baylor Bears. Speaking of OU football, they're looking to bounce back from that Baylor loss this Saturday when they take on Iowa State at 11 a.m. Iowa State is also looking to bounce back after this 62-yard game winner they suffered against Texas Tech last week. The Sooners need to win this game to stay in Big 12 championship and college football playoff contention. Nirali Jayswal tells us how.
Off a tough loss in Waco, the Sooners are disappointed but still looking ahead. Some fans are thinking of Iowa State as a bounce-back game, but cornerback Woody Washington has other thoughts.
I wouldn't say it's like a bounce back. I mean, things happen. Baylor played a really good game, especially late in the game. So, I mean, that is what it is with that. But we just got to keep pushing and keep moving forward because, I mean, all our goals are still ahead of us. I mean, the only thing that we can't achieve right now is an undefeated season, but the college football playoff and the Big 12 championship is still there.
The Sooners also made sixth-year linebacker Caleb Kelly available to the media. Kelly suffered another season-ending injury and announced that he is calling it quits on his Sooners career, where he made some big plays and great friends.
I've seen more people cry than I have about me being hurt. And so it's just funny, like, just that love, I think, is just the biggest thing that it comes to my mind. And my favorite thing for sure is just the love of my teammates and my coaches and everybody that has put time into me.
Kelly is doing his best to get on Fox's big noon kickoff this Saturday, where he would join the man who recruited him to OU, former head coach Bob Stoops. Nirali, Jayswal, OU Nightly.
Women's basketball looked to keep their undefeated season alive last night when they took on the Central Arkansas Sugar Bears. The result was sweet like sugar for the Sooners as they got the 78-54 win to move on to 3-0 for the season. Anna Yanusa and Maddie Williams were the top scorers for the Sooners, combining for 31 points between the two of them. Skylar Van racked up a double-double coming off of the bench, and she puts a huge emphasis on rebounding to her performance.
Know what I'm supposed to do. And it's like knowing what you're good at and knowing like your strengths. And I think my strength is like rebounding. And of course, like pushing to a starting spot is a goal. But at the same time, it's like I get on the court and I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do. And that's all that matters, you know, just helping my team.
Ladies, I've been really impressed by Coach Jenny's performance for the Sooners so far this season. How do you guys feel?
Thanks, Saul. Yeah, it's been a great start and it's been really fun to watch.
Well, tomorrow I'm going to make the trip to Starbucks for a free reusable cup. Find out how to get yours when we return.
I'm Dana Searles at the OU Nightly Update Desk. The Oklahoma Pardon and Parole Board voted today to grant clemency to another death row inmate. In a 3-2 vote, the board now leaves the decision up to Governor Stitt to commute the sentence for Bigler South for II to life without parole. Stitt's spokesperson said the governor has no plans to comment. Back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Dana. Now we want to check in one last time at the state capitol.
OU Nightly's Libbey Dean is there. Libbey, more supporters of Julius Jones are arriving right now. What can you tell us?
I am live at the Capitol right now, where a pastor from Atlanta, Georgia, has chained himself to the fence. And supporters have been here all day, and so have I, and I've spoken with some of the supporters, and they say that they're going to wait until the bitter end when Governor Kevin Stitt makes a decision on Julius Jones's clemency. For OU Nightly, I'm Libbey Dean.
On a lighter note, if you are a fan of holiday drinks, you may want to start your day off with Starbucks tomorrow.
The coffee chain is giving out the limited edition Red Cups Thursday while supplies last. In a nod to Starbucks' 50th anniversary, the cup is made with 50% recycled material. This is their 4th annual Red Cup Day giveaway. In Colton, that coffee from Starbucks might come in handy with a cold front moving in.
Hey, I might have to go get me one of those cups. Talking about the football game, maybe take your coffee to the football game, especially to the tailgate. 50 degrees winds, they'll be out of the south, so it will finally be warmer air beginning to build back in. But then as you get closer to halftime, we'll be touching the 60s, so it's all in all going to turn out to be a pretty nice game if you get out there. And then again, beautiful temperatures continue into next week. Ladies, back to you.
Thanks for joining us for OU Nightly.
We're going to give you one last look at the Oklahoma State Capitol, where Julius Jones supporters are waiting for Governor Stitt to make a decision.